Well, howdy folks, and welcome back to the channel. Today's video turned out is going to be a whole lot different than what I had planned. What I had planned to do was drive out here to this spot out here in the desert to get some video footage of the annual Pony Express re-ride that they do. They start and they do a ride from Missouri, where it started, and along the Pony Express route, the original express route, as much as possible, and to Sacramento, California. Well, the Pony Express route goes right through northern Nevada, you know, not too far from where I live. And so I figured I'd drive out here early this morning. Well, when I got here, I rolled in just as the horses were going by, and I stopped to go ahead and let the people that were following behind them, because they had a caravan of people with horse trailers and pickups and support, to let them know that there was a section of road down that way there that's pretty muddy. As you can see, old private parts here is pretty muddied up, and that they probably wouldn't be able to make it through with their trucks. Well, they thanked me and went on their way, went to try to get through, and I went to start old private parts and nothing. So I pulled the starter out, and I didn't get any video footage of that. Didn't get any video footage of me driving out here because it was dark. And yeah, pulled the starter apart, tried to fix it, nothing. So I got Patrick, my niece's boyfriend, on his way out here. All I need, and you can see I got the tow rope on it, all I need is just a pull, just enough so I can pop the clutch and get it started. But as you can see, there ain't nobody else out here. Now where I'm at here is at Hooten's well. This is what's left of Hooten's well. The corrals were built after the 1860s, but there's still some little bits of rock foundation left right up over there. And I'm going to try to splice in some footage that I shot last October when I was out here for the Legacy Gold Rush race. So because where I was at, me and old PFC Butters was right over there. So at any rate, the video is not going to be what I had hoped. You know, I even dressed up in some old cavalry type looking duds to kind of look the part, and yeah, it just didn't work out the way that I had planned it or hoped. So at any rate, but what we will do is that when we get home, we'll get changed out of the cowboy duds and into some wrench turning duds, and show you how to put a starter into an M151. So stick around. All right, let's go ahead and give this a try. We got ignition on. Take out the slack in the rope. To it. That didn't take much. No. I knew she was going to start, but I think what I'm going to do is, instead of unhooking this, I'm just going to go ahead and run this thing and coil it up in the passenger seat.
It happens.
I appreciate it.
No problem. Changes my morning up a little bit. Something
yeah.
Different.
And
be out here.
This is a heck of a lot better than being sitting in the house, though.
Better than being at work, too.
All right, we got old private parts up and going. We're going to get up here and get turned around. we got home without any problems. First thing I did when we got home was I went ahead and threw old private parts on a battery charger here, because in order to properly diagnose the issues, we've got to go ahead and we've got to be able to start it. So I've gone ahead and thrown it on the charger. You can see it's on the charger right now, and we're still not quite where we need to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to let this is a nice automatic charger. We're going to let it go overnight, and yes, this is a 24-volt charger. So we're going to let it go overnight and then come out tomorrow morning and then see what we can do, because it's one of it's one of several things. It could be the starter's bad. It could be the alternator's bad, or the generator, excuse me. This is a 25 amp generator, which is stock for an A1. Or it could be that the batteries have just given up the ghost. The batteries were bought in 2015, and so they are older. Sometimes batteries will just up and quit. So we're going to go ahead and let this charge, and then we'll go ahead and try to start it. We'll see if the starter motor turns over okay. We do have some I do have some other starters, so we can go ahead and try one of those. But what I want to do, in the way that I like to diagnose this stuff, is not just to start throwing parts at it. I need to find out what the issue truly is. So if we go ahead and get full battery, and then the starter's still turning over real slow, we'll go ahead and swap the starter. If it's still creating a problem with full batteries, we'll pull the batteries out and we'll take them down to O'Reilly's and have them put them on their tester. So I don't have a good battery analyzer. I have one of the old school testers, but not a good battery analyzer. So if the batteries are at the end of their lifespan, then we're going to have to figure out how we're going to be able to afford new batteries. So at any rate, we will see you tomorrow. All right, folks, it is not the next day, but it's actually been 2 days since we threw old private parts on the charger here. The battery was fully charged by the next day, and I wanted to leave it set for a couple of days to see if we had any battery problems. Because if the battery, is not going to take a charge, it'll be a couple of, you leave it set for a couple of days, and then, you're not going to have anything. So right now, we are going to go ahead and see if we can fire private parts up and see if we did have a starter problem. And I'm going to take that as a no. We do not have a starter problem. But it's obvious that we had some kind of a charging system problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull private parts into the shop, which is going to be the first time I've been able to do that since before I started this channel. So right now we're going to go ahead and move the camera and bring all private parts into the shop so we can properly diagnose the charging system. there we go. Wow, this is really cool, being able to bring old private parts into the shop now. Okay, we're getting ready to go ahead and do the diagnosis. You do not have to have one of these. I would recommend that if you've got a 151, you get yourself one of these. They're still out there. I have no idea, what they're, how much they cost, but I know they're still out there. But this is an adapter engine electrical test, and it's for the 151. Federal stock number is 4910-348-7600. But what this has in it is it has this test lead here, and this installs between the voltage regulator and the line going back to the battery. This one goes between the generator and the regulator. This one here goes between the number one spark plug and the number one spark plug wire. And it's got, because they're shielded, you can't just clip a little inductive timing light on it. And so you can go ahead and put your inductive timing light over this portion here. This screws into this side screws into the spark plug. This side screws into the spark plug wire, and what that does, that gives you a place to hook your timing light. And then this one here screws in, and this actually has a this is just a little, it's a M series electrical connector that the previous owner just put over that to protect it. But what this does is that this will go down in through the top of your distributor, that one plug on the top of your distributor, so it'll get in and touch the top of the coil, so you can go ahead and get an RPM reading off of it. And then this one here, I don't remember what this one goes to. I haven't had to use it yet, so it does say what it's for. I think that is for testing. Yeah, it's for testing the battery side of the ignition coil. So at any rate, we're going to be using these today. You can do these tests without this set, but it's a real pain in the butt. The other thing that you're going to need is you're going to need a multimeter. This one here is a digital one. Nice Fluke multimeter. These are not, I think these are, I know that when my dad bought this, because this was my dad's, when he bought this, it was pretty expensive. And as kids, because this thing is probably 35 years old, as kids, if we needed something like this, to diagnose something on our cars, we did not use this unless we had Dad's permission and everything else. Now I've got a set of test leads on it that have these clips, and so these clips make it a whole lot easier to be able to take your readings. So you can do this with like an old Simpson 260 or any kind of multimeter that you want, but I would suggest that you get one with the alligator clips, so that you can clip into different things, and you don't need 3 or 4 hands unless you have somebody to help you. If you got somebody to help you that can hold the test leads where they need to be held, that's even better. So, at any rate, we're going to get to the book. Now, the TM over here, which the TM that we're using is TM 9-2320-218-20. This particular one is dated September of 71. Now, it has a whole section here on diagnosing everything. However, the problem that you have is that it requires the use of this particular unit right here. It's a load tester. It's a low voltage circuit tester, and I do not have one of these. So these tests can be done with just a multimeter. You know, because what we don't want to do is we don't want to end up just throwing parts at it. If we go ahead and tear the generator out, and you know, that's going to be probably a fairly involved process, you know, not horribly involved, but we're going to have to remove probably going to have to remove the air cleaner to easily get in there, you know, to get to the generator. And this is for all these procedures that I'm using are for the 25 amp generator. This will not, none of this diagnosis applies if you have an M151A2 with the 60 amp alternator. That is a totally different animal. And this, you know, it doesn't have a voltage regulator on it. So it's going to be totally different. So this isn't going to apply to that. So at any rate, you know, what we want to do is we want to test the generator first. We want to find out whether the generator is actually the problem. If the generator is the problem, then we'll pull the generator, replace it, and then everything should be back to running right. But if it's not the generator, then we don't have to loosen the belts and pull everything out, and all we have to do, it'll end up being the voltage regulator, which is this right here, and all you've got to do is just pull the 4 bolts out, pull the regulator out, and swap in a known good one. So at any rate, I did some researching online to go ahead and get the proper test procedures, how you can test this without having that big, you know, low voltage tester, military low voltage tester. So at any rate, we're going to go grab those procedures that I printed out off the printer, and we're going to get to it. All right, first thing we got to do is we need to go ahead and get the air cleaner out of the way here. So we're going to go ahead and just pull the air cleaner top off. We're probably going to end up pulling, matter of fact, I think we're just going to do that right off the bat here. Because we have not done an oil change on the air cleaner in a while, and so I'll bet that it is probably pretty nasty. Actually, it's not. So, alright. Well, we may end up just leaving it in there and throwing a rag over it. We will just throw a rag over that. But at any rate, that gives us a little bit of room to get in here and put all our test leads on. Okay. Now, we've got to go ahead and pull let's see if we can, yeah, there we go. Okay, we got to pull this lead off here. This one is the lead that goes from the voltage regulator back to the battery. And these are kind of you're supposed to have a spanner wrench to do this, which I don't have. Now I had already loosened this one up. Sometimes you just gotta kind of pull on it, loosen it up, pull on it some more. Pull that loose, and well, looky there. That's a problem. I wonder. Well, any way we look at it, we got to fix that. I don't think that was the problem. So we're going to continue to get these leads put on here. We will just get in here with a pair of pliers and hopefully we can get these things, hopefully we can get this loose. We may have to, no, there we go. That didn't take much. Pull that off there. Okay, well that did not work, so we're going to have to redo our entire thought process on this. So we're going to take one of these, but what we're going to do is we're going to strip the insulation off of it. Let's see if I can do this out, cutting my fingers off. There we go. Okay, so what we have now is a small little deal. Now what we'll do is we will cut. We will cut this short. And then we're going to spin that on there. And crimp it. On it there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to try to turning the heat down on this thing here. This won't. I don't think this is an all or nothing here. So what we will do though is that we'll go ahead and hit this with a little bit of heat, and then see if we can't get the solder to run down in there. Let me see if I can find something that's not gonna put quite so much heat into it. It's gonna pinpoint it a little bit better. Okay, we've got a different soldering gun here that seems to be working a little bit better. So what we're doing is that we're going to heat this up. I'm going to heat this little connector up, this little crimp-on connector, and you know, just let the solder kind of flow through it, and that will solder the wires to the connector, and hopefully should give it a little bit stronger connection there. Because as you saw, you know, when we pulled that other one apart, it just came right apart. It was a pretty bad connector that was on there. And you can see the solder's kind of flowing down into it now. Alright, I think that's got it. We don't have a big mess there. I think that's got it. So now we are going to slide this over here. Shrink the heat shrink. And there we go. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and hook this up Actually, let's flip this up a little bit more. Now we're going to go ahead and hook this one. We had to pull the whole cable out between the generator and the voltage regulator. And if I'd have read the damn instructions like I was supposed to, I would have known that you got to leave the cable on, and then that way you can go ahead and this is going to plug in here, and then this kind of works its way around, back around, and has to plug into the generator. This is the typical military design. I think what we may have to do is pull the voltage regulator out. Alright, that gets pushed in there. It's not ideal, but it's going to work. And then the next thing we do is that we connect this one up here, and into the output side of the voltage regulator. And these just slide in. These do not screw on or anything else like that, because these are just for temporary, you know, just for testing and diagnosis. So what we're going to do now is we're going to hook the jump. We need to polarize the field, and the book here gives us a okay, let's see, connect the battery, ground cable. Okay, polarize the generator by connecting one end of a jumper to terminal 1 of the regulator adapter, which is this one right here, and then to the F1, which is the field, right here. What that does, that'll polarize the generator, which is, you know, that is an important part of the process. So, but what we do need to do is we need to turn the batteries back on. So we're going to end up making a little jumper here out of this heavier gauge wire. That's probably about all we need. I don't know if you need to do this every time, but I know you need to do this every time. You know, if the thing is sat with the batteries out of it for a long time. So we're going to take from battery 1 right here, and we're going to flash the field. There it is. That's all it needs to do. Now we're going to take our multimeter. I'm going to hook this up to a good ground. Make sure we're set to volts DC. We're going to see what we've got here. We've got 25.3 volts. Okay. Now we want to check to see whether or not we have good current coming out of the generator. Now, normally you would hook up that low voltage test deal to it, and but which I don't have. And so this was, I got this was posted by a guy, back in 2008 on the G503 message board. If you're not a member of the G503 message board, it's a good resource. The Facebook M151 page is good. There's a G838 page. I haven't been on that one for a long time, so I don't know if it's even active anymore. But the G503 page has got a section, or message board has got a section for M-Series vehicles. So it says you want to determine the source of the problem. It says this test will answer definitively whether or not the generator can produce electricity, which is what we want to find out first. If the generator is not producing electricity, then there's no point in checking the regulator right now, because if there's nothing going into it, there's nothing coming out. So it says you disconnect the generator regulator cable at the regulator, okay, which we have done, and we have placed that that test lead in there. This is assuming that you don't have a test or the test lead. And it says connect the voltmeter as done above. So what they do, it says to connect it to basically something that's a constant hot, which would be the input side of your starter switch. Don't go to the lead on your starter. That's not going to do you any good. But to something that's a constant hot. And so, and because we have this test lead in here, this deal right here is your constant hot. And so I can hook to there. And then it says here, to place an improvised jumper wire, pin soldered to a piece of 16 gauge wire that will fit inside the pins of the connector. You'd put it to receptacle B, which is the field. Okay, and so that would be F1 on the other one that's coming out of the generator. And then it says here, and then you start the engine, you momentarily connect your, let's see, you run a jumper wire between that, that F1 or pin B in the generator to regulator cable, and then you momentarily connect the alligator clip to the hot battery cable on the starter switch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this same little jumper wire from the field over to the battery while it's running, and I'm going to observe the voltage. If the voltage, the generator should peak very quickly at 28 or higher as you increase RPM. Disconnect the test jumper as soon as the voltage peaks. So if you get 28 volts, then the generator is good. If you don't get 28 volts, the generator is caca. Pull the generator and then replace it. So we're going to test that out and see how that whole program works. So we need to put our alligator clip back here on the deal, and we're going to connect that to the battery. And then I think, no, we do have to remove this from the generator, or from the voltage regulator. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to run a jumper from here to here, and then we're going to watch what this voltage does once we fire it up. generator's in. Which is kind of what I thought was going to be the case. So next thing we got to do is we got to find us a generator and get this generator pulled. Or we got to get it pulled first, and we'll go out in the park then and see if we can find us a generator. So we might as well get started on that. We're going to go shut the battery switch off. So we don't end up with accidental arches sparkies, which is no fun. Now we need front bolts out first too. Now we have a dead generator. The bearings seem to be okay on it, so the bearings are okay on it. Then we can probably get a rebuild kit. We'll go ahead and put this one aside and plan on going ahead and pulling the end cap off. There should be instructions to go ahead and how to rebuild one of these in the Dash 34 manual, which I have. So at any rate, we're going to go try to find us another generator.